Sarah, you used phrases like red line, non-negotiables. We've heard dead on arrival for the bill that passed through the House. And when it comes to negotiations, those phrases are tough if you end up having to concede. And obviously, a deal needs to be made, and it needs to be made by June 1st. And for optics, no one obviously on a single side politically wants to look like they conceded more than the other. So what does a win look like for Republicans, and what does a win look like for Democrats?
Well, both sides, whatever happens, the most extreme members of either party, progressives on the Democratic side and conservatives, right-wing lawmakers on the Republican side are going to be, decrying whatever, concessions Biden gave into. Progressives are going to be upset about those, and whatever concessions he did not make, right-wing lawmakers are going to be upset about those. So I don't think that everyone is going to end up happy at the end of the day, but just, accomplishing any debt limit bill in this split Congress and in this, this politically tumultuous environment, I think is going to be sort of a win for both parties, and will make the leaders of those parties at least look good. We talked about the welfare work requirements. I think if Republicans can push those through, as well as a provision that would speed up the process, the permitting process for energy projects, those would be two big wins for Republicans. And then there's also a lot of haggling over federal spending caps. It seems like the Biden administration is open to capping federal spending until the end of his term. However, Republicans want to extend that for 10 years. So that'll be another area to watch for as these negotiations play out.
Sarah, we've been talking now for what I think is months on debt ceiling negotiations, and the theme of every conversation has been impasse, gridlock, stalemate. The synonym for that has been the theme of our conversation. For the first time, it seems like there actually is some tangible movement, which is great because that X date is nearing. But Mitch McConnell said last week the United States is not going to default. It never has, and it never will. And Tuesday's comments from Kevin McCarthy sound more promising than they have been in the past. So what's next in terms of what we know about debt limit talks?
Well, McCarthy again said today that he hopes to reach a deal by this weekend, which would really, bring the negotiations down to the wire, because it takes time for legislation to move through Congress, and there is only 1 week left in the month where the Senate and the House are simultaneously in session. So I think that we can expect, an announcement on a new bill again as soon as this weekend, or if not early next week. That legislation would move through both chambers of Congress and presumably be signed by Biden fairly quickly. So I think that we are nearing the end of this discussion, and neither side, obviously neither side wants a default. That is really just not an option, and it never has been. Both sides are using this, or Republicans rather, are using this debt limit fight to push some of their policy and spending priorities. And, again, Biden has taken the hardline stance that he wants to negotiate these spending cuts through the budget process. But it seems like Republican lawmakers are really forcing his hand here, as you said, since we only have 2 weeks left until this so-called X date.
Yeah, looking at that calendar, looking at the X date, I hope the next time I'm talking to you will be before June 1st, obviously, but I hope it's highlighting the end of these negotiations. Sara Dorn, per usual, thanks for your insights.